I'm 79 years old. That still surprises me when I say it. I don't feel like someone who's nearly 80, at least not on the inside. Inside, I still feel like the same man I was decades ago. Just a little quieter, a little slower to speak, more careful with my words. As if I finally learned that not everything needs to be said all at once. This morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table, the same one that's been in this house longer than some of the friendships in my life. The surface is scratched and dull now. There's a mark near the edge where a cup once sat for years, always in the same place. I was watching the light move across it, inch by inch, as the sun climbed higher. I had nowhere to be, nothing waiting for me, just time doing what it does. And I found myself thinking about how many mornings like that I've lived through without ever really seeing them. For most of my life, I was somewhere else. Even when I was physically present, my mind was already ahead of the moment, planning, worrying, rushing. I didn't think of it as rushing back then. I thought of it as being responsible, being useful, being the kind of man who stayed busy. I didn't realize what I was losing while I was losing. That's the truth of it. I thought loss would announce itself. I thought it would come with a clear sound, a clear ending. But it didn't. It came quietly, tucked inside ordinary days. When I was younger, I believed life was made up of big moments, the kind you could point to, the kind you could prepare for. Weddings, promotions, birthdays with round numbers. I thought those were the things that mattered, and everything else was just filler in between. Now, looking back, I see that it was the filler that carried the weight. I was working most of my adult life, not in a way that anyone would write about. I didn't build an empire or invent anything. I went to work. Once you out, I did what was asked of me. I tried to do it well. I told myself that was enough. And maybe it was, in some ways. But there were trade-offs I didn't understand at the time. There were evenings when I came home tired, shoulders heavy, head still full of the day. My kids would be at the table or on the floor, talking over each other, laughing, asking questions. I was there, technically. I heard the sounds, but I didn't always hear the meaning. I'd nod, smile, say I'd listened properly after I sat down, after I took my shoes off, after I caught my breath, after. It's strange how often that word shows up when you look back. After dinner, after work, after things settle down, after this busy season. I didn't realize that life doesn't really settle down. It just changes shape. There's one moment that comes back to me more often than I'd like. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was ordinary. My daughter was standing in the doorway of my study. She must have been 9 or 10. She was holding something she'd made at school. I don't remember what it was. A drawing, maybe, or a small project glued together with more enthusiasm than skill. She asked if I could look at it. I was in the middle of something. I remember that part clearly. I don't remember what the something was, just that it felt important at the time. I told her I would look in a minute. She stood there for a second longer, then nodded and walked away. I never asked her to bring it back. That moment didn't feel like anything back then. It didn't hurt. It didn't register as a mistake. It was just one of many small choices made without much thought. But those are the ones that add up. My wife used to say I was always half there. She didn't say it angrily, more like an observation. I laughed it off, told her That was just how my mind worked. Always running, always thinking. I didn't understand that she wasn't asking me to change how I thought. She was asking me to stay. We spent decades together, built a life that looked solid from the outside. A house, children, shared routines. You see, how we rarely fought. I took that as a sign that everything was fine. I didn't realize that silence can sometimes mean patience, and patience can sometimes mean carrying more than your share. There were evenings when she wanted to talk, not about anything urgent, just about her day, a thought she'd had, something she noticed. I listened, but not always, with my full attention. I'd glance at the television, think about something I needed to do tomorrow. She would keep talking anyway. She always did. I thought that meant it didn't matter whether I was fully present or not. I was wrong. She used to write letters, actual letters, with pen and paper. She said it helped her slow down. I teased her about it, told her it was old-fashioned. She smiled and kept writing. I didn't ask what she wrote about. I assumed there would be time to read them later if it mattered. After she passed, I found boxes of those letters. Letters she'd written and letters people had sent back. I sat on the floor and read them one by one. In almost every reply, someone thanked her for remembering them, for taking the time, for writing when no one else did. That's when it hit me. She had been showing up in ways I never fully noticed. Quietly, consistently, without expecting anything back. I didn't realize I was losing that kind of presence while it was happening. I thought it would always be there. My best friend, Mark, and I met in our 20s. We grew up together, in a way. Shared jobs, shared disappointments, shared jokes that only made sense to us. We talked on the phone most weeks, even when we lived far apart. The calls were never urgent, just a way of checking in. Sometimes I'd let them ring. I'd tell myself I'd call him later that evening, or the next day, or the next time I had more energy. One afternoon I did call back. His wife answered. Her voice sounded careful, like she was holding something fragile. She told me he'd been in the hospital, a heart issue. Soon he didn't make it. I sat there with the phone in my hand long after the call ended, not crying, just sitting, thinking about how normal everything had felt the last time I ignored that ringing phone, thinking about how certain I'd been that there would be another chance. That's what I didn't understand when I was younger. Most endings don't come with warnings. They come disguised as ordinary days. As the years went on, my world got smaller in ways I didn't notice at first. Fewer calls, fewer invitations, fewer voices filling the house. I told myself that was just life. People getting busy, people moving on. I didn't see that I was losing the daily texture of connection, one thread at a time. I think we get this wrong when we're young. I think we believe that what matters will make itself obvious, that important things will demand our attention, but so much of what matters is quiet. It waits patiently, and if you don't notice it, it slips away without making a sound. When my wife got sick, time changed its shape. Days stretched out in strange ways. Waiting rooms, hospital halls, long silences broken by small updates. I sat beside her bed and held her hand. It felt lighter than I remembered. I traced the lines in her skin with my thumb and thought about all the times that hand had reached for mine while I was thinking about something else. She didn't talk much near the end. But once she looked at me and said, "You're here." Just that. No accusation. No bitterness. I nodded. I was there. I wish I'd understood earlier what being there really meant. After she was gone, the house felt unfamiliar. Not empty, exactly. Just altered. Like the air itself knew something had changed. I'd catch myself listening for sounds that weren't coming. Footsteps, a voice calling my name. The quiet was heavier than I expected. I started noticing things I hadn't paid attention to before. The way dust settles on shelves. The way evenings arrive earlier than they used to. The way memories surface when there's nothing else competing for space. I found myself thinking back over my life, not in a dramatic way, but in pieces, small scenes, moments that didn't feel important at the time. The last time my kids ran through the house laughing. The last Sunday call from a friend. The last letter my wife wrote. I can't tell you exactly when those things ended. I just know they did. If I could go back, I don't think I'd change the big decisions. Not entirely. Life is complicated. Choices are rarely clear when you're living them. But I wish I'd noticed more. I wish I'd been slower to assume that tomorrow was guaranteed. There's a difference between being present and just being there. I didn't understand that for a long time. I thought showing up physically was enough. I didn't see that attention is its own kind of gift. I watch people now, younger people, moving through their days with the same sense of urgency I once had. Always somewhere to be. Always something pressing. I recognize that look. I know it well. I don't blame them. It feels necessary when you're in it. But I wonder how many moments they'll look back on one day and realize they never really saw. The things I miss most aren't dramatic. I miss the sound of my wife humming while she cooked. I miss the way my kids used to tell stories that went nowhere and everywhere at the same time. I miss conversations that didn't have a purpose beyond filling the space between two people. Those things didn't feel important while they were happening. They felt ordinary. That's why they were easy to overlook. Time has a way of changing what matters. Or maybe it just reveals it. I don't sit around feeling bitter. That's not what this is. It's more like a steady awareness that stays with me now. A kind of clarity that comes too late to be useful, in the way I once thought clarity was supposed to be useful. What I wish someone had told me when I was younger isn't how to succeed or how to avoid mistake. It's simpler than that. I wish someone had told me that attention is finite, that every time you give it to one thing, you're taking it from another, and that the cost isn't always obvious until years later. There are days now when I sit quietly and let memories come and go. I don't chase them. I don't push them away. I let them pass through. Some bring warmth. Some bring a dull ache. Most bring both. I'm aware now, more than ever, that I don't have endless time left. That's not frightening in the way people imagine. It's sobering. It strips away a lot of noise. It makes the present feel heavier, more real. I think about the man I was at 40, always in a hurry, always certain that what he was doing mattered. I don't judge him. He was doing the best he knew how. But I wish I could sit across from him at that kitchen table and let him see what I see now. Not tell him what to do. Just let him notice what's already there. I didn't realize what I was losing until it was gone. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know what to look for. If there's one thing age has given me, it's patience. Not the kind that waits for something better, the kind that stays with what is, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's quiet. The clock in my kitchen still ticks. The light still moves across the table. I sit and watch it now. I don't rush it anymore. I let it be what it is. I don't know how many mornings like this I have left. I know it's fewer than I once assumed. That knowledge doesn't feel heavy. It feels grounding. I spend more time now noticing what's in front of me. A cup of coffee, a memory, a moment of stillness. I don't take those things for granted the way I used to. Not because I'm wiser, just because I've seen what happens when you do. This isn't a lesson. It's not something I figured out in time. It's simply what remains when most of the noise has fallen away. I'm 79 years old. I've lived long enough to see how quietly life passes, how gently it leaves if you're not paying attention, and how much of it can be missed without ever realizing it was there. I sit here now, in the quiet, aware of that, and for the first time in a long while, that feels like enough.